Okay, so everybody, let's start. Good evening. This is the second last session of the day, and before I introduce the session, it's something that a statement that we wanted to make on behalf of Fizana. Over the year and discussing, over the last 2 years, discussing various concepts for the program at the Congress, it kind of became evident that we hadn't actually ever made this statement. Fizana itself is a coordinating body for Zoroastrians within North America. Our strength is administration, logistics, governance. However, when it comes to anything that matters towards religion, we look towards our Mobeds. In India, you have the Vada Dasturjis, one of who is here, and the community over there looks up to them to guide them in religious practice, traditions, customs, and the understanding of theology. In Iran, similarly, there is a council. And in North America, we have the North American Mobed Council. And it is absolutely imperative that we individuals, Zarthustis who live in North America, and associations and federations look up to the guidance that the North American Mobed Council can provide us in all matters that are their expertise and domain. So whenever questions come up to Fizana as to why this and why that, we politely do not give comment because we are not experts at that, and we pointed people to go to the North American Mobed Council. Many a times people get pissed off that why do you do that, right? We do that because, again, we are not the experts on religion. We have our Mobeds, and they will continue to guide us as they have for thousands of years. I thought this was an appropriate time to make this statement as we lead into the sessions on Mobeds here at the in North America at the 12th World Zoroastrian Congress. With this, I invite Kavas Desai to take it further.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yazad. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
He wants to say something.
Kavas, 1 second. Before Kavasji starts the introduction, I'd like to thank Arzan and Kayosidwa for the help to NAMC. I cannot thank Arzan enough. He knows how many times I've called him, and any time I call him in the evening, and I live on the Pacific time zone, and he is on the Eastern time zone, and sometimes I see he's calling me at midnight. So I sincerely thank him for his support of NAMC.
Welcome to the session on Global Mobed Community Serving Zoroastrians Worldwide. In 1861, Dadabhai Naoroji, in a speech before the Liverpool Literary and Philosophical Society, said in part, "I will first give some account of the present state of the knowledge of the Parsis about their religion. The priests are a separate caste, and the priesthood is thus hereditary. As a body, the priests are not only ignorant of the duties and objects of their own profession, but are entirely uneducated, except that they are able to read and write, and that also often very imperfectly. Their work chiefly consists of reciting certain prescribed prayers on various religious occasions, to go to the fire temple or seashore and say a prayer for anybody that chooses to give them a halfpenny. They do not understand a single word of these prayers or recitations, which are all in the old Zen language. Such being the state of knowledge of the religious guides and teachers among the Parsis, it may be easily conceived what could be expected from a layman." In 1879, James Darmestater, in his introduction to the sacred books of the East, wrote, "As the Parsis are the ruins of a people, so are their sacred books the ruins of a religion." We've come a long way since these words were written, as our priests, especially in the diaspora, have rendered yeoman service to the Zoroastrian communities in their various jurisdictions to extend the knowledge of our religion, history, and culture. It is with great pleasure, therefore, that I introduce to you Dr. Arda-e-Viraf of Minocherhomji, who will moderate this session. Arda-e-Viraf is named after a 4th century devout Zoroastrian mystic who undertook an extraterrestrial dream journey through the next world including heaven and hell, in order to prove the truth of Zoroastrian beliefs. Arda, as he is commonly called, received an MSc in pharmacology from the University of Toronto, an MBA, and PhD from the University of British Columbia, and became a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Washington Medical School, and was the recipient of Tata, Connaught Laboratories, and Canadian Heart Foundation scholarships. Arda went on to become the managing director of William Blair Capital Partners and headed William Blair's healthcare research. He was a Wall Street Journal all-star analyst in both the medical device and pharmaceutical service sectors. Currently, he's a founding and managing partner of Chicago Growth Partners, a private equity firm with $1.2 billion in managed assets. Born and raised in Bombay, Arda was ordained in Awar and Martab in Navsari, and apart from his professional life, he is very actively involved with the North American Zoroastrian community and was the immediate past president of the North American Mobeds Council, commonly referred to as NAMC. During Arda's tenure, the council formed the NAMC Institute of Zoroastrian Studies, which conducts seminars, history courses, and podcasts for the benefit of the Zoroastrians in North America. Arda, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. So just for the people who are here from the last session, I can give the young people some advice. If a dumb mobed like me can start a business, anyone can. But you need three things. Work as hard as you can, start everything in Aura Mazda's name, and remember that failure is never an option. Okay, with that, I'd like to introduce an excellent panel that we have today. To my left is our Vada Dasturji, and I believe he needs no introduction. Who here doesn't know Vada Dasturji? Can you please raise your hand? Good answer. So, the one thing I'd like our younger people here to think of Vada Dasturji as not someone who's just holy, but you should treat him like your friend. He's very approachable. If you have any questions, please go to him. On my right is Edward Sheherazad Pavri. And yesterday, for those of you who were at the dinner, I'm sure you saw that he received an award. And I'm sure he will receive many, many more. But just very briefly, Edward Sheherazad Pavri is a young Yosdadatra Mobed from Mumbai, India. At the age of 28, he remains one of the handful of Mobeds today capable of performing the Nirangding ritual, which is the highest ritual one can perform. And again, he's only 28. Sheherazad completed his priestly training from the Dastoor Institute in 2010. Sheherazad has been actively involved in community initiatives. He is a core committee member of Empowering Mobeds program, and I'd like to expand on that later on, which works on initiatives for grooming and supporting Mobeds in India. He has also been a volunteer with Zoroastrian Return to Roots program since 2017 and is currently the ambassador of the Gen Z and Beyond survey in India. He strongly believes in giving back to the community to which he owes a lot and is always ready to help for a good cause. After graduating in biotechnology, he started a business with his friend building a global commercial project or e-commerce project. Last year, he transitioned into data science and is looking forward to starting a career in London, England. Thank you for joining us. To the immediate left of Dasturji is Edward Yazad Bhadha. Edward Bhadha, thank you. Edward Bhadha has been the resident priest at the Zoroastrian Trust Funds of Europe since 2014. He completed his priestly studies at the Dastoor Institute under Edward Ramyar Karanjia, the same school that he went to. After attaining his MCom, or Master of Commerce degree, he was awarded the ZTFE Faridun and Mehraban Zartoshti Scholarship to study for his MA in Zoroastrianism at SOAS University in London, England. He represents ZTFE as an executive of Harrow Interfaith and is one of the youngest trustees of the Faiths Forum for London and on the Religious Educational Council for England and Wales. Edward Yazad serves the Zoroastrian community in UK and Europe by performing various religious ceremonies, advising community members on religious matters, and conducts prayer classes. School and university visits, teaches the XYZ Children's Fun Club, and serves as social events organizer on the Young Zoroastrian Committee. He is the secretary and head of the speaker committee for the 8th World Zoroastrian Youth Congress, hosted by ZTFE in July 2023. Give a big hand. And to the left of him is Edward Kaivan Antia. Edward Antia lives in Melbourne, Australia, with his wife Hawaii and children Tushna and Faizan. Since arriving in Melbourne in 2004, Kaivan has started a few religious ceremonies in Melbourne, like Friday night prayers, with all lights switched off. In front of the Holy Atash Dadgah, prayers on significant days, such as Muqtar and Gathas. These prayers were held at Kaivan's house for several years. Kaivan is currently the chair of the Religious and Cultural Committee of Zoroastrian Association of Victoria, Australia. At the 2009 Parliament of World Religions, the Zoroastrian delegation, led by Kaivan, inaugurated the parliament by reciting the healing mantras of Ashembahu and Yatha Ahuverio. Kaivan is employed by ASX 200 company, and he is the group risk manager responsible for risk management and across several countries in Australia, UK, and New Zealand. Kaivan prays daily, and he has utmost faith in the power of our beautiful prayers. With that, I'd like you to take over.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that louder. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for waiting back after the previous session. The topic here says Global Mobed Community Serving Zoroastrians Worldwide. Now, we decided at the last moment to do a little mix and match and experiment, because this panel is trying to showcase a journey of Mobeds moving out into the diaspora. So I would be representing India in a particular capacity, followed by moving out to other diasporas, and finally a younger diaspora. I hope by the time the panel is closing into an end, more people will come in to hear Dasturji Khurshed's address, because it is a really important one. So do text people outside to just come in if possible. So what is it that we think about a Mobed when you hear that term? I was planning to build up on Dasturji Khurshed's address, which has been pushed to the end, but it is going to discuss about a particular movement, a mass exodus from the villages of Gujarat to urban Bombay. And in the process of all of that, the Mobeds were completely relegated purely to priestly duties. A lot of fire temples, holy Atash Berams, Agyaris, fires were consecrated. Trustees established those fires, but it wasn't an organized process, and as a result of that, the authority that the Mobeds held gradually diminished. Mobeds were people who were looked up to for worldly matters. Arda just mentioned moments ago that it would be great that if you all look up to Vada Dasturji Khurshed as more of a friend. And I hope that by the end of this panel, we all can actually look at Mobeds with a different angle. So I just mentioned that the Mobeds were relegated to just performing ceremonies, and the ill effects of this are seen till date. Having little to no knowledge of the outside world, poor social skills, unable to address the grievances of the laity, infighting, insecurity about their own profession, the list goes on. And I don't intend to bore you all with all of this. And as a result, the existing Mobeds their family members, especially themselves, were hesitant to pass on this baton to the next generation to take up the Mobedi profession. And amid these hardships, the show went on, but I assure you, till date, the Mobeds that serve in the diaspora, the ill effects of this continue to be seen. You may not be looking up to these Mobeds in your local communities for worldly advice. And the Mobeds themselves, it is only when they come up and meet with a fellow Mobed like myself, they'll be like, my community members are not really interested in, like prayers. They're just looking for, oh, can you get the Jashan done a little faster? In fact, even at a Congress event like this, we need some organizer to come and line us up that, get organized, stand in a line, hold candles and come up. So the Mobeds have actually lost their authority. Now the problem in India may be a little different, but in 2017, a group of bold volunteers finally decided to do something about it. It started off with simple activities targeting people from each demographic. There was a simple objective in mind: to interact with you laity, also known as the Bedins. We wanted to increase these exposures, and we wanted to build the confidence of the Mobeds and increase the rapport between you, Bedins, and the Mobeds, and rebuild the stature and authority of the Mobeds in the process. In a span of just 5 years, this volunteer group, today known as Empowering Mobeds, managed to organize events with all age groups. I'm going to quickly run by slides to showcase some of these events that we've done. Mobeds moving online. With the world digitizing at such a fast pace, we needed that the Mobeds who were stuck at Agyaris all day can actually communicate clearly to their laity, be equipped to handle technology and effectively communicate the knowledge that they have. Turns out, even a basic WhatsApp can be used better rather than just forwarding messages. We had experts coming in from social media and giving us basic tips on these platforms and on how they can be used effectively to communicate with the laity. The how and why of networking. We always say that, oh, Mobeds are not professional. I totally agree with you, they are not. But turns out they've just not been taught how to be professional. We were really grateful to have our core team volunteer Binay for Saukar, her brother Hemin. He took a session on corporate networking and on how it can be included in the Mobedi profession to actually churn out more professional and articulate Mobeds. A heritage walk in South Bombay. Young kids from the Bhai Avabai Pitted School, it's a boarding school in Bandra, a suburb in Bombay, and the kids from the Dada Rathonan Institute. Probably this was the youngest demographic that we interacted with. We all gathered them and took them around a short walking tour of South Bombay. This tour actually gave exposure to these Mobeds. They probably experienced a day in the life of a walking tour manager, you could say. But it was also a lesson for the kids where they actually found out, oh, I belong to this community. And there are these people, not all of us was dressed up as Mobeds, but they're like, oh, these are our Mobeds and this is what they represent us. So there was a legacy that was instilled in their mind as a process, as a result of that. A Hambandagi is basically a community prayer where people get together and pray. So on Ava Roj of every month, which is dedicated to the waters, the community gathers at this well called the Bikha Beram well, and there's a jashan that is held over there, followed by a short religious talk. And our members our core team members have been regularly invited to go and share their knowledge on this platform, which the community members really look forward to. Collaborating with events for the XYZ for all of y'all who don't know, XYZ is a really amazing initiative based in Bombay. In fact, it managed to go global, which constantly engages these young Zoroastrians to, you talk about community causes, you talk about cooking events, or just fun stuff, sports, it's everything under the sun. So what better way to get empowering Mobeds on a platform along with them and collaborate? We got together, had a fun discourse on religion. We took them around to fire temples. Again, that increasing that exposure with the younger generation, sharing that knowledge, making the Mobeds more approachable who otherwise would just be sitting in a fire temple and not having exposure to the outside world. The holiday program for youth, recently it started off again. We went up there, we shared the objectives of that program, that what we intend to do. The Return to Roots program, they're going to be out there shortly. So this interaction in particular was quite an eye-opener, because for Mobeds in India, when global participants come in and share their perspectives, they literally are amazed. They feel, aren't they supposed to know all of this? And on the other hand, the Mobeds feel, the participants feel like, oh, these men in white, they just like sitting in a temple all day praying, and what can I share with them? What can I talk to them about? It wasn't at all true. So at the end of this session, we managed to break that ice and build great bonds. This was at sort of mid-2018, Vada Dasturji Kotwal, we realized that there was a demand, there was a need, with continuous feedback of previous events, a lot of community members were reaching out to us saying that, could you all possibly share more information about our religion? Like, okay, all these exchanges are good, but we need a hardcore authority to come and address us. So we managed to get Dasturji Kotwal to come on our platform and address the audience about the Muktads. An off-site training in Sanjan, this was actually one of the final places where we managed to come up with our core objectives in place to have like a proper body, to set up a proper trust, to support functioning of to support Mobeds as a full-time profession. Mental health and awareness. The lady you see out here, Binaifa Saukar, I'm going to call out her name. She's a lady, she's very close to my heart, and I look up to her for advice in so many things, and she has been steering our team through thick and thin. Binaifa shares her experience about mental health and how it is a very neglected thing in our Mobeds, and how we need to be aware and in the process help out community members. We're not saying that Mobeds are like trained counselors and you just go up to them saying, oh, I'm having stress or anxiety, but at least when you have someone to look up to in that regard and share appropriate material, share references from religious scriptures or share prayers to help you calm down. This was the objective of this session. Of course, we need some fun, and we managed to have a get-together over a football match with budding Mobeds dressed up in topis. Yeah. So the parents, Mobeds, they all got together for a quick fun football match, writing skills, and then the pandemic struck. With the pandemic striking, we were all like really helpless, wondering what can be done, and a few volunteers were bold enough to come forward and said, I am willing to take classes. With literally no knowledge of how even to operate Zoom, it started off as a very, very awkward experience, but in the process, we ended up having so many kids looking forward to Sunday classes, Believe me when I tell you, I was at the earlier sessions yesterday as well as today morning about these young women in the diaspora who conduct classes on religious education. We have so much to learn from you. But there's so much core knowledge that our Mobeds have which can be disseminated to you all in very effective manner. And we started off somewhere. And finally, through online classes, we built like a very good following. And we've stopped them right now because the Mobeds are back to they're not having enough time to commit to these weekly classes, but there are so many people in the community reaching out to us, oh, when's the next class? Please, we look forward to your classes on Sunday. I hope you all are following us on Facebook and Instagram. If not, it's Empowering Mobeds, and you all will get updates out there about upcoming classes, sessions, or events, if any. These were events to promote dialogue. Now, if there were people who could work from home, Mobeds did not have the luxury. We have consecrated fires which burn 24/7, and all of these holy places were locked up. And fire temples are not places which are frequently visited in today's times as much as they used to be. They're not frequented as much. And imagine being at your workplace by yourself all day. All you have to do is go, pray to the fire, and come back out, and you have literally no one to talk around. That is what our Mobeds have faced during the pandemic. Through a platform called Empowering Dialogues, we managed to get these Mobeds to have conversations and open up about their troubles. There were issues about sourcing kathis or just having funds to continue their day-to-day functioning. But getting them to promote such a dialogue managed to really calm them, and we came up with really interesting solutions, and they're looking forward to so much more. So finally, just recently in the month of April, I'm pleased to inform you all that we launched our own trust. The trust is having the following 5 core areas to focus on: rituals, prayers, presentation skills, soft skills, and connecting with laity. I'm proud to say that throughout all of these hardships, we wanted to start off small, and in a matter of 4 years, we managed to have enough of a following, and today we've started this trust with a simple objective in mind: to elevate the stature of Mobeds and to simply transform the image that you have. We're not just boring men dressed in white. I assure you that we are much more than that. Go reach out to Mobeds within your community. Ask them whether they are aware about this initiative. If not, tell them to come reach out to us and how we can do better. Pleased to inform you all that just a few days ago, in spite of heavy rains in Bombay, we had our first session of a core group which will be trained in soft skills, and we look forward to build on the success of that. Through the Empowering Mobeds Trust, we are looking to create a proper scheme to support Mobedi as a full-time, financially viable vocation. Miles to go before we sleep, but this is what it is in India. And let's find out what is happening in the diaspora. Yazad? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Yazdan Panabad. I can't hear you, sorry. Sorry? Thank you. Thank you, Sheherazad, for this informative presentation. Empowering Mobed scheme is indeed a boon for the Mobed Sahibs back home in India. Mobedi and serving our community for their religious needs is what I'm most passionate about. Many thanks to the good offices of Dasturji, Khurshed, Dastoor, and to the Zoroastrian Trust Funds of Europe for their foresightness of getting a full-time resident Mobed has enabled me to serve the Zoroastrian community in the United Kingdom. Thank you. There has been a fair presence of the Zoroastrian community in the United Kingdom since the 19th century. Since the ZTFE was established, many of our Mobed Sahibs, including our World War II veteran, late Dasturji Dr. Sorabji S. Kotar, former High Priest of the Zoroastrians of the United Kingdom and Europe, have voluntarily served our Zoroastrian Hamdins and our religion. As time progressed, due to challenges of old age and demise, there is a shortage of Mobed Sahibs who, at one time, could readily perform priestly services at short notice, especially after-death ceremonies, as opposed to current times, wherein many of our younger Mobed Sahibs have full-time employment. Therefore, the decision of the ZTFE employing a full-time resident Mobed to serve our Hamdins in UK and Europe became even more crucial. Simultaneously, the population of Zoroastrians in the UK continued to grow, which meant there was a dire need to recruit a Mobed Sahib to safeguard the religious and spiritual needs of our future generations, as also to guide and advise on matters of Zoroastrian religion, heritage, and culture. Due to these reasons, the appointment of a full-time resident Mobed was advertised widely, and I was fortunate to be chosen for this position in 2024. Taking off on what Irvad Sheherazad has just mentioned, we in the United Kingdom have also been guiding and supporting our Zoroastrians over the years to succeed in various projects and fundraisers for the betterment of the Zoroastrian community in the UK and for the charitable causes abroad. Zoroastrian Trust Funds of Europe is one of the oldest Zoroastrian organization in the West and the oldest faith-based voluntary organization of Indo-Iranian origin in the UK and Europe. It was established in 1861 under the illustrious Saint Minocherhomji Kama, our founder president, and our founder trustees, Arda-e-Viraf Khurshed Vada FRS, Dr. Dadabhai Naoroji, and other stalwarts, that the Zoroastrian community in Europe have flourished over 1.5 centuries. Whereas the main purpose to establish ZTFE was to support our community in Europe for religious, social, and cultural purposes in times of joy and sorrow. ZTFE's contribution has indeed exceeded the geographical boundaries of Europe and has tremendously benefited the Zoroastrians in India, Iran, and globally. One of the first steps taken by the association was to ensure that the Zoroastrians' last rites are performed for our dearly departed Hamdins. Thus, in 1863, ZTFE acquired an exclusive burial ground for Zoroastrians at Brookwood Cemetery. Our burial grounds in Brookwood Cemetery continue to remain in the service of Zoroastrian community to this day. However, this was the general background of ZTFE. talking about my association. I was trained as an Ayurved at the Dadar Attorney Institution, Mumbai, under the guidance of my principal and mentor, Ayurved Dr. Ramya Karanjia. I have been employed as the full-time ZTFE resident Mobed since 2014. Since then, I have been performing numerous Zoroastrian ceremonies such as Naujots, Jashns, Afringans, Farokshis, and after that ceremonies for the Zoroastrian community in the UK. At ZTFE, we hold Zoroastrian educational children's classes popularly known as the XYZ Fun Club, organized by our youngest member on the ZTFE Managing Committee, Ms. Shazdin Munshi, and I love being a volunteer teacher too. I also conduct classes for children learning Naujat prayers in the UK and overseas. However, due to COVID, these classes have now moved online and are usually conducted via Zoom. I advise community members on matters of religious customs, such as initial procedures to be followed on the sad demise of our dear departed, prayers to be recited at the site, important after-death ceremonies which needs to be performed, giving them solace by counseling them during this difficult period, and extending my help in whatever way I can, as also being with them during their final hours and performing the necessary prayers later. I have been associated with the ZTFE Young Zoroastrian Committee, which organizes social and cultural events for the young Zoroastrians in the UK. Currently, I am the social events organizer for them. This committee is currently chaired by Ms. Sheherazad Kapadia, and the vice chair is Ms. Sanaya Kambata, both being the co-chairs of the 8th World Zoroastrian Youth Congress to be hosted in London by the ZTFE at the well-known Hotel Radisson Blu from 21st to 26th July 2023. I'm also honored to be actively participating in the 8th World Zoroastrian Youth Congress as a secretary and a speaker's liaison. We look forward to welcoming the Zoroastrian youth from all over the world to London in July 2023. So, I hereby urge all parents to encourage their children and grandchildren between the ages of 18 to 37 to sign up when registrations opens and avail the early bird offer. For more information, feel free to reach out to our organizers who are present in the audience. According to the Collins English Dictionary, to empower someone means to give them the means to achieve something, to become stronger or more successful. Being empowered with the requisite knowledge exudes confidence, means an ability to act or make responsible decisions for oneself. By sponsoring my master's degree in Zoroastrianism at SOAS, University of London, and encouraging me to attend comparative religious education and interfaith seminars, the ZTFE has truly empowered me to serve our community and the wider UK society. The ZTFE has also encouraged and supported me to become an executive member of the Harrow Interfaith Council, and I am proud to be one of the youngest trustees of the Faiths Forum for London. From the start of the COVID pandemic, my fellow voluntary Ayurved Sahibs and I have commenced live streaming all our ceremonies on YouTube, which have enabled the Zoroastrians in the UK and internationally to view all our ceremonies, which are a boon and great comfort to all age groups, especially our senior citizens who were shielding since the start of COVID pandemic. Being appointed as the full-time resident Mobed in London by the Zoroastrian Trust Funds of Europe, I am a full-time employee of the ZTFE, and my employers are the management committee and trustees of the organization. As a Mobed, I do have an input in matters pertaining to the ceremonies and religious practices. An example of that is after I was recruited as the full-time resident Mobed, I introduced the ceremony of farewell to the Fravashis of the dearly departed during the Ushange on the final day of the 10-day Muktads. Fortunately, in the ZTFE, a restricted Mobed fund was established for a full-time Mobed before I was employed. However, I am fully aware that the President, Management Committee, and the trustees of the ZTFE are constantly fundraising to replenish the Mobed funds to ensure ZTFE continues to employ a full-time Mobed for well into the future. As a concluding remark, I would like to emphasize that respect has to be mutual and, according to me, has to be earned. In order to do so, we, the Mobeds, have to serve our Hamdeens with dedication, commitment, and most importantly, by acquiring proper knowledge and education regarding our religion and the texts, and propagating knowledge to our fellow Hamdeens. The best way to have a happy and prosperous community is to have a synergistic relationship between the Mobed Sahibs and the Hamdeens. It is a multifaceted relationship where everybody in the community should be mindful that Mobeds have got skills that are required by all, for which these skills have to be adequately monetarily compensated. I would like to end by suggesting that the way the ZTFE has successfully employed me as their full-time resident Mobed, other Zoroastrian associations in the diaspora should evaluate and, where feasible, try to adapt the ZTFE model in order to encourage and empower our young Mobeds to take up Mobedi as a full-time profession and serve the entire community. Thank you.
Thanks, Yazad, and good afternoon all. My time has been cut down to almost half, so I'm going to speak quite fast to cover everything which I want to say. Today, I am going to speak about some of the challenges facing Mobeds, not only in Melbourne, but worldwide, and then I will put my thoughts forward on how to resolve some of these. I will start off by talking briefly about my childhood, as it is linked to the challenges which we will touch on later. So what you see on the slides are 4 generations of my families, all priests, right from my grandfather, my father, myself, to my son. I was brought up in a traditional priestly family where serving the Patsa Sahib was the family occupation. My grandfather and my dad's 2 brothers were full-time Mobeds at the Navsari and Wadiyaji Atas Berams. While I was born and brought up in Bombay, my childhood memories are filled with going to Navsari every year, where the Muktad Gatha prayers were performed. My day used to start at 3:30 in the morning, where we used to ready the house. The women used to make the chasni bakras while we would clean the house. Berias were washed and filled with fresh flowers. This is where I witnessed firsthand the sacrifice, hard work, devotion, and passion of Mobeds to serve the community. The whole reason of narrating this is
my grandfather then encouraged my dad to seek employment elsewhere, as did my dad's two brothers to their children and my dad to me. And this from a family where serving the Patsa Sahib was a family occupation. I do know a few Mobeds who have similar stories as well. I will not spend too much time on this slide. However, there are two things which I would like to touch upon over here. The first is, if I had become a full-time Mobed, it is very unlikely that I would have been able to reside in Melbourne, or I would be standing here before you addressing you today. The second is my son, who is in his last year of uni studying engineering. The question is, will he be motivated enough to serve the community going forward? So I'm now going to talk about some of the challenges which I have faced in Melbourne over the past 18 years. The current Melbourne community profile is approximately 100 individual and family memberships. Before I migrated, I used to go to the Agyari every day. And while I was in Bombay, I used to just pray for myself, not as a priest, except during the Muktad Gatha days where I used to go to the Arda-e-Viraf to help out in the Muktad Gatha ceremonies. It was fortunate that just before I arrived in Melbourne, there was a 1-month course run by the Andheri Madrasa which sort of helped me to start offering my services to the community in Melbourne. When I first arrived in Melbourne, I noticed there were only 2 priests, and there was a huge gap in the religious side of things which I had grown up with. However, the Zoroastrians in Melbourne, I was introduced to, were very, very helpful and very welcoming. Over the past 18 years, I have noticed that first-generation migrants are interested in connecting with the Zoroastrian community. However, due to a lack of a Dare-Meher, there is nothing really to connect them to the roots. Many children have never prayed in front of an artist, and families often are time poor and do not have the knowledge skills to train their children. However, they are genuinely interested in imparting knowledge of our history, culture, and religion to their children. There are some worldwide challenges too. Why would anyone want to become a priest? Most of the time it is because either it is their profession or many times it is their love and passion for our religion. Often what I've noticed is Mobeds are not respected or given the due they deserve. There may be lack of knowledge in the priests as well. While priests have the practical knowledge on how to perform a ritual, but sometimes they are lacking in theory, which is significance of ritual, meaning of our prayers, and so on. It is very hard work, not well paying, and not the first choice when choosing a profession. There is simply no scope of advancement in this profession. I'm going to sort of glide over this slide, but these are some of the things we have started in Melbourne to address some of the challenges I have mentioned before. So what is the solution, and how do we as a community resolve some of the challenges I have spoken about? I think we need to think outside the box. We need to look at the issue as a whole. And what I mean is, we should not say, oh, this is a Melbourne-related issue, why should, we bother, or someone else from some other area bother? Why should we, for example, help out Sydney or Australia or any other association for that matter? We need to look at it holistically. Migration patterns are changing, with patterns showing that young Zoroastrian families are leaving the Indian subcontinent and migrating to places like Australia, New Zealand, USA, UK, and other places. So the question is, where can we get the best bang for the buck? For example, it could be setting up a Dare Meher in Melbourne, which does not have one. This will ensure that Zoro children from an early age are connected to and identify with our religion. This is so important. We also need better support for Mobeds. Similar to the North American Mobed Council, I feel we should have a global organization for Mobeds, run by Mobeds, and while there is quite a lot of support already available, for example, we can then have extend it and have something like frequently asked questions which can be referred to by Mobeds in the event they are not sure about something. Respect. It is a two-way street. As priests, we should earn the respect by our actions and our service to the community rather than demand it. Associations must endeavor to engage the youth more. This will assist the youth or the youth Mobeds to be part of the association and perform their priestly duties. Also, we should consider whether during the Nava ceremony, if we can start off the Mobed empowerment process by teaching the young Navariyas while they are, having those 25 or 29 days of the ceremony on what is the significance of our prayers. How do we conduct them? These are just some of the things. The ultimate aim, in my opinion, is, as Vada Dasturji is going to say, and my fellow Mobeds have mentioned, is to empower Mobeds. This is so we are perceived as trusted partners to the community whose advice is actively sought on religious matters. There should be a budget for religious activities set aside by the associations. Full-time practicing Mobeds, in my opinion, is a requirement. It is not a luxury. So to finish off my session, all I will say is the situation is quite dire. And unless we as a community work together, the decline in Mobed numbers will continue. At the end of the day, it is a fact that Mobeds and Bedins are dependent on one another. And when we all work in harmony, it will be a great outcome for a Zatosti Din. Atha Zamya Yatha Afrinami. Thank you. Now I would invite Arda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not going to get up and talk. We are running short on time. We started quite late, as you know. So I have a very few number of remarks. So first, I'd like to summarize and tell you my thoughts about where we are going and what we should do. This comes from my experience as being the president of North American Mobed Council for the last 4 years. It's been very rewarding, but by the same token, I have learned a few things that I believe will hamper our growth in North America and elsewhere. So as you guys have seen, we have a tremendous group of young Mobeds here who excel in education and in Mobedi. But in order to retain and attract educated and knowledgeable Mobeds, we must change things going forward. The first thing I would really recommend that our community begin to empower Mobeds. So in the case of North America, we started the NAMC Institute of Zoroastrian Studies, where we educate our Mobeds in the meaning of basic prayers, and I'm going to expand on that because of lack of time. But we also raise funds and we provide scholarships for our young Mobeds to learn Avesta language. And we have started programs to teach both the Mobeds and the laity. But again, my humble suggestion is that unless we change the way we operate in North America and elsewhere, we will not be very successful with our religion going forward because we lack focus. We do not have a strategic vision, and therefore we cannot formulate effective strategies to achieve that vision. So as a very first step, again, we should empower Mobeds. And I've said it 3 times. I hope you remember that. So what is empowerment? To some Bedouins, empowerment means that you empower the Mobed to do what they tell them to do. That is not empowerment. So I looked up what Webster's dictionary says. It says empowerment is the authority or power given to someone to do something, or controlling one's own life. Now, because of the way our institutions are set up, we have, again, boards made up of Bedouin directors who sometimes tell the Mobeds what to do. That cannot be the case. We have a group of young, intelligent Mobeds who should be taking control of all religious activities. That is the very first thing we should do. Mobeds should be given the autonomy to make their own decision on all religious matters. The second point, I have only 5 and I'll go through them fast. All boards should have a Mobed representative who can advise the boards on all religious matters and as well as present the Mobed's interest. We, Mobeds, pay our dues to the associations, but we don't have any representative for us. So to me, like they say in America, it's taxation without representation. That should change. Mobeds should be able to advise the boards, and we should have our interests represented. Third, respect your Mobeds, and Kaivan talked about that. So when you talk to most people, thank you. So when you talk to most people, they'll say, oh, of course we respect our Mobeds, but they will respect you if you agree with them. The minute they disagree with you, they become very disagreeable. And I've learned that the hard way. And they will fight with you, which is okay. I can take care of it, as you know, from my background. But not all Mobeds can fight back. And we don't need to have that kind of relationship, which is acrimonious. There is no reason to be that way. Some actually will try, and I really mean it, to overtly or covertly try to subjugate Mobeds. And that cannot happen in the 21st century. Like, I'll give you an example. And Dasturji, I won't take much time. But this is so important for you to understand. In my association, when a person did not like what the Mobeds did, he complained to the executive committee. The executive committee unanimously supported the Mobeds. He was not happy with that. So he said we should have a community vote. Now I ask you, and there was a vote taken, and obviously we won, but that's not the point. Can anyone here imagine if the Mobed would say that we want to take about women's rights issues here? What would have happened to him? Nobody would be subjected to that kind of humiliation. Not any women or LGBTQ members, they all have rights. The only people who don't have rights are Mobeds. No rights. That needs to change very quickly. Anyways, the fourth, again, Kaivan mentioned that we should have well-defined budgets for religious and cultural activities. So the way I see, when I run my organizations, I understand that to run an organization, you have fixed costs to run an organization. So after covering the fixed costs, all our association boards should be able to show the community 1 year prior exactly how much is going to be spent for religious versus cultural activities. So they will find monies for conducting a live band at New Year's Eve. But when it comes to Mobeds, suddenly the funds are not there. That's been my experience. And again, what the last point is, look, at the end of the day, there won't be a religion without Mobeds. So we have to figure out a way. So we have to figure out a way to have a full-time practicing Mobeds in each of our Atashkades in North America. Otherwise, we'll just have a structure. Our members find millions of dollars to build the structures, but they don't find $1 to have a Mobed there, which is mind-boggling. Anyways, that's all I have to say, and I hope people listen to this. Thank you. Dasturji.
Good evening. Sorry we don't have much time, so I don't have to go through the pages. Everything is spoken. You know, the times are changing, and so are the Mobeds. Since last few days, we were sitting over here, learning and observing, listening to each and every one, about the respect, about the gender equality, and what furthermore. I am asking you today, has the community given that same gender equality to the Mobeds? I'm sorry, gender equality, but equality to the Mobeds? Once upon a time, the Mobed which were looked as a family member, as a priest, is today looked upon down as he's just another kind of a Mobed. Please, as you want respect, the younger generation of the Mobeds want respect. The Firdoshin is Sanama says, Magui ke atas parastan budan, parastan de atas Yazdan budan. We are the worshippers of fire, but through fire we worship the Yazads. Our migration to India reaffirms the values of our past as Iranians and Zoroastrians, as also accounts for our future of living and making homes away from Iran and India. The symbolic fire of our ancient religious tradition. And who are the keepers of this fire? They are the Atravans, they are the Athornans, they are the Mobeds. We also would like to change. And any community or anything which does not change will wither. Don't just shout for the change just because you want change. First, study the change. First, study what you are saying, why it was done there. We don't want to create a difference between the East and the West. We don't want the Indian diaspora to say that we don't care for the West, and we don't want the Western diaspora to say that we don't care for the East. Remember, between East and the West, there is the South, which is the home of Dada Raura Mazda. We all have to go there, either from the East or from the West. Ultimately, we have to develop our own self. There will be change, but it cannot be a sudden change. It will take time. Imagine it has taken 1300 years to be on the soil of India. And since last not even 100 years, you are in the diaspora. You are asking too fast to change. We are ready to come one step forward. You also come one step forward. Let us sit and talk. Let us discuss. Don't just go away in an acrimonious manner. That will be my talk to you. I've always believed that Mobedi is a profession which we are privileged to be born in. But at the same time today, if someone asks me that will you ask your son to continue in a Mobedi, I would think twice about it. A Mobedi is paid till the time he can sit down on the floor and do Afargan Farokshi. And if he can't do that, he's dead. He's retired dead. There is nobody to support him. There is no system to support him. There are no provident fund, there are no sick leaves, there are no insurance, there are no monthly salary, there are nothing. And imagine you are shouting on top of your voice that the Mobed has to change. Yes, we are ready to change. We have got young Mobeds. Look here. Look to here. They are there. Do you care for them? Start caring for them. Automatically, the religion, automatically the community will try and understand them. Don't make a bridge between us. Don't think that we are going to kill you. We are trying to be approachable. But then when we say something which you don't like, accept it. We agree to disagree. And that is our religion. That is what we are taught about. The most important things which I would like to say is, All Mobeds, irrespective of the country in which they practice, should be well compensated for the services they provide, which Arda has already mentioned to you. The status of the Mobed has to shift to a commanding position from the current employee position he helplessly clings onto. He has to be on the board of the trustee of a Agyari or a Daremer or an Arda-e-Viraf. We have got 100 Agyaris in India, but there are not even 5 Mobeds who are on the board of the trustees of those Agyaris. If you are going to be in a diaspora, if you want Mobed, and I'm sure we all know that without Mobeds, the religion will not survive, and without the laities, the Mobeds will not survive. So it is up to you all to decide which type of a Mobed you want. There's an old saying in Gujarati, there are 2 types of horses. One is who draws the carriage, and one who runs in a derby. Which one do you want? The one who takes the load or the one who runs the derby? The problem with the community, which I have faced up till now, then since 1970 was when I was studying in Dada Ratunan Institute. That time, the schemes of the Mobeds were being decided. They were planned. Today, we are in 2022. Can you show me one single scheme for the Mobeds or the upliftment of the Mobeds or the upliftment of their children? If you have got it, please tell me. This is the state of Mobed. Believe me, how do you expect when you know that there is nothing in this business, you will close your business? How will you expect your children to give up business which is going in loss? These are the problems which we face for the Mobedis. This is why we don't have enough Mobeds today. Please, try and understand that we want the ladies to be with us, and we will give equal respect to the ladies. But we also want respect from you all. Sorry, it's time, and I pray that like Athravan Zarathustra, we follow the footsteps of our holy prophet. And I pray a short stanza from the Hoshbam prayer. Akshya zem chiti yo Zarathustra fratenam, namanam cha, visham cha, zantunam cha, dakyunam cha. Angao denyao, anumate cha, anukte cha, anvarshte cha, yao hri Zarathustrish. Yatanangam shatomanao, vahisto urvano khatro etish, tanvanto, vahistongyos akashroit, auramazda jashentam. I, who am Zarathustra, will guide the leaders of the house, of the clans, towns and lands to think, to speak, and to act in conformity. With this religion, which is of Aura, revealed by Zarathustra, so that our minds be full of joy, and our souls attain the best, our bodies be full of heavenly glory, that may be fit for the best world, that is heaven. O Aura Mazda, may all these good wishes reach us openly. Ata zamiyat yata afrinami. May it be so as I wish. God bless, and blessings to you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Dasturji, and thank you all the Mobeds. Thank you all. Aban, do we have time for any questions? No. Okay, thank you again, everyone. Say that again. Please.
Yes. Is there a... Do you want to come up here? Please make it very brief. Please make it very brief.
It will be like
Yeah.
1.5 minutes. My name is Farhad Gudrat Sidwa. I am a son of a Mobed who had served the Iran Shah. Now, my father gave me a choice that you become a Mobed and you learn the scriptures, 100%, 72 Yasna chapters. And if not, do your own, what is your liking. Remember that the Atharvan class people are smart for generations and generations. Now the choice I was given by my father and not having the facility, I said I will become an engineer then. And then I see what is being told to the Mobeds by the trustees, my friends who are Nawars and Martabs. They have left the profession because one Mobed friend of mine told me, I am being told to practice at gunpoint. If you don't do this, you will not get this or that.
If I may just.
Mobeds have been told by trustees and some satyas to work. They say, I'm working at a gunpoint, Farhad. I have no choice but to do it, even if my conscience says no, not to do it. This has to stop. Let them work by their conscience.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
They work at 1 a.m., 5 a.m. All those people who are coming here deciding to say that I'm Mobed or Mobed, they don't want to work at 1 a.m. and 4 a.m.
If I may just stop you. Okay, thank you
Okay,
very
thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this wonderful session, Arda. Thank you, Vada, Dasturji, and all of you out here. These congresses are meant to exchange. These are eye-openers. For all of us, we agree what we need to do. The laity out here sitting in the room, we need to go back to our associations and work this out. And I think time is of great essence, and this would be working out other thing. Right?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to make one comment. I have been running from session to session. We had 4 other sessions going down, so I was spending a few minutes in each of the session. However, I did walk in 3 or 4 minutes ago and heard the Vada Dasturji speak, and I recognized that there was comments preceding that. I would just like to indicate that we are all part of a religion centuries long. We have survived until now, and it's been a combination of the Mobeds and the laity. And what I heard the Dasturji say is absolutely correct. There is no denying that we as the laity have changed the way we've been treating Mobeds, and we need to think a lot about that. Yes, there may be Mobeds who we feel are not educated enough, but you all heard the circumstances of how the Mobeds have been operating. There is a great financial issue. There are attempts by the Mobeds to make changes and improve their status, but there is no excuse for our laity not treating them with respect. That must change no matter what. Thank you. Can we just have a group picture?